Thank you, Saskia, for that very kind introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I should probably grab that. I'd like to say a quick thank you to Richard, who I can't see, for having me. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Richard, for having me, and to the entire team at DCD for being such gracious hosts. My name is Sunny Dolat. I am one of 12 members of the Nest Collective, an artist collective based in Nairobi, Kenya. I am extremely privileged to work alongside some of the most respected and powerful figures in the creative scene in Nairobi. We're a family of 12, and I don't use the word family lightly. The 11 people I work alongside have, over the last couple of years, become the most important people in my life. I'm always in awe of them. They're all incredibly talented. They're incredibly kind, easily the most loving people I know. We have fought together, we've cried together, we've gotten drunk together. But most of all, we've created magic together. That's them. We formed a bad habit of wearing a lot of black. We started the Nest in 2012 as a gathering place for artists. We hosted all manner of cool events, from film festivals to poetry events to artist breakfasts. Sometime in 2013, we started to think about our own practice. At this point, we had had many conversations with fashion designers, and they had expressed their frustrations and dissatisfactions with the limitations of fashion shows. And so we took this as the basis of a challenge that we set up for ourselves, a rather ambitious challenge. The result of that was Chikoleko Presents, which is a series of 8 short fashion films shot in one location on one day, showcasing the work of 8 local contemporary designers, and I'll play you one of them. Thank you. In 2014, we created what has been our most defining work yet. We'd always been dissatisfied with the problematic lens through which African queer people were seen, always struggling, unhappy, and diseased. We knew there was more to the community than that. So we went around the country, collected 250 stories, and our initial plan was to put all of these stories into a book and share them with the communities from which we collected the stories. Along the way, however, some of the stories lent themselves quite visually, and so we decided to make a film. This would be a good point to mention that none of us studied film or anything design-related. I'm a hotelier by training. I make a really good cappuccino still. Njoki is a medical doctor, we have a lawyer, and so we were really just figuring out stuff along the way, a lot of Googling. But then this work, Stories of Our Lives, was the first that bore our identity as a Nest collective, and it changed our lives. The success of the film, as well as the ensuing drama around the ban of the film by the Kenyan government, solidified our identity both as creators and as a family. So far, Stories of Our Lives has screened in over 100 film festivals and won numerous awards, but remains banned back home.
Isana ya do do do. Isana ya do do do. Isana ya do do do. Isana ya do isana ya do do do.
Thank you. We've created work across disciplines: film, fashion, literature, and music. At the heart of our work, there's always a fundamental question, a what if or a why does. Constantly questioning and imagining our past, present, and future of our Black African identity and the intersections of that with feminism, race, and sexuality. In 2013, we started Heave a Fund, a fund for the creative sector. All of us at the office had at one point struggled with accessing finance to pursue our creative interests. Whether it was finding money for a new camera or a sewing machine, we, like many creatives, had to rely on savings from our then 9-to-5s or had to take a loan from our families. Going to a financial institution was completely out of the question because financial institutions don't trust artists. So we decided we would trust artists. We designed financial products to allow artists to turn their hobbies into businesses. We have so far invested in 30 businesses within the photography value chain, fashion value chain, interior value chain, and are now looking to expand into film, gaming, and music. On any given day, you walk into the office and hear some people having a conversation about equity, and the next room, people are writing a comic. We do very many things. Our most recent work, a fashion book called Not African Enough, highlights the lack of nuance in global conversations about African fashion by taking a snapshot of what we think have been defining moments for Kenyan fashion, explorations by designers that feel honest and true to who we are as a people. In 2013, images like these began to appear, to mixed reactions, obviously, locally and globally. The work around this time was very focused on structure and forms. Colors tended to be very neutral: whites, beiges, grays, and blacks. Looking back, I think it was more of like a wiping of the slate, and the beginning of a true exploration of Kenyan fashion. I remember an Italian gentleman saying to me of this collection that it's very beautiful, but it's very Armani. This was one of many very layered statements that people would make about such work that was coming out of Kenya. The thing about this disappointment is that it wasn't new. We've heard this disappointment in various forms, and it's never quite presented as a direct disappointment. It's quite polite seemingly. Things like, oh, your English is very good. Oh, you have an English name. Oh, Nairobi has so many malls. But at the very root of all of these statements is a disappointment that we don't match the long purported stereotypes of what it means to look, sound, and dress African. Africa, a continent of 54 countries, 2 disputed ones, 1.2 billion people from 3,000 ethnic groups. To say that Africa is diverse is an understatement. So why have we allowed ourselves to believe that African fashion is limited to garments made from Dutch wax print? It's almost as if it's the only thing that's expected of African fashion. It's as if it's the only thing African fashion should be. Yes, this is African fashion, but so is all of this. Take Kefa Miner, for instance, an architect by training and a self-taught designer whose work strongly references and is inspired by his training in architecture. Or Amidoshi Shah, a jewelry designer of tremendous talent, whose work is a beautiful minimalist expression of dualities. Or Anyango Mpinga, for instance, who with each season finds ways of carrying stories into textiles, such as the print in this collection, which is inspired by Dinka scarification. Our work continues to be fueled by questions, curiosities, and a desire to own our narratives, a desire to represent ourselves beautifully and with dignity, a desire to dream and imagine while remaining unapologetically Black, unapologetically African, unapologetically queer, and unapologetically feminist. Thank you.